Billie Eilish, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? And yes, I have another album review, and today I have something a little bit poppier, I guess, or, well, I mean, it is popular, quite popular, so I guess it's fine to say it's pop, but yeah, I know that this is a very popular album, or it was. I mean, it still is, but it was incredibly popular, and yes, contrary to popular belief, I'm not all metal, even though it's my favorite genre probably, but yes, I honestly kinda hated the start, both of the skit intro, because the first song is just a skit, and then that repeats pretty much into the Bad Guy song, which is the second song of the album. And I've already said my piece on skits. I'm not gonna say it again, but you already fucking know I don't like them too much. But yeah, as for the song, look, I understand why it got so popular. It works on the same basis as a lot of EDM songs that got really popular, because essentially of the singing that fits the registry. It's catchy, it has interesting sounds, but it also is super simple, and it is the perfect blend between the sounds and the singing, right? Pretty much most EDM songs that got incredibly popular have sort of that perfect blend between catchy but simple chorus and an interesting like drop or a catchy drop, right? It also has this, I guess, quirky power, which obviously, got really popular amongst people because of social media and everything, especially amongst teenagers. It does end with this sort of funk beat, which just sort of turns the song on its head, and honestly, I understand why it's there, but to me it did feel kind of out of place. Meanwhile, the next song is actually very interesting because while the style of singing does make it unique, I do feel there is a certain fear over using the full power of the singer's voice. Like from this song, I can hear her voice is actually really nice, so I'm actually wondering if it's, purposely like sort of capping the song due to fear, or if it's just specifically a very stylistic choice and she's actually way capable of more when it comes to the singing. The third song, I'm, realizing that pretty much the album is incredibly polished. Yeah, three songs in, and it's honestly just incredibly, like, very, very polished. Usually, when you want to use weird sounds, they can, sound out of place. So for them, it is actually even more important that good production is there, but this album is actually really good on that aspect. It has these weird sounds, but the production makes them sound really, really good. So this album is actually amazing in that aspect. Despite the beeps and the boops, I guess, it does feel like everything sort of fits really well. Again, like it's sort of the same thing with Bad Guy. It's like the mix between the singing and the production makes it really good. The production is interesting, the singing is interesting, but it's all kind of, when I say simple, I mean it's digestible. It's simple to listen to, rather than, I'm not saying that the songs are so simple and anyone could make them. No, I mean them from a perspective of engaging with them, hearing them, right? They are simple to hear, not that they are simple to make. So much so that I haven't really heard that much this style before. I've heard the other singers before sort of try and emulate this quirky style, even before Billie Eilish, and not very easy to do because they weren't very good at it. But yes, despite all of that, one of the things that I enjoyed as well was the diversity on the songs. Like, this isn't very much a one-note type deal, right? There's a lot of different perspectives the album actually takes, especially from the sounding part. And amazingly, it seems that Billie seems to be able to just make this singing style work for every single one of them. As if the singing was pretty much made for that specific song. Something that became very clear throughout the album, however, is that it's kind of like teen angst. Like, from my understanding, Billie was 17, I want to say, at the time this came out, so she was, she still is pretty young, but she was pretty young when this album came out, and it's actually pretty cool to see a teenager share their feelings on an album. Usually you either get a very mature approach or just straight up uncaring for the issue teens usually go through, because it's usually adults making music. So it's actually really awesome to have an album that sounds unique, but also one that shares the angst that teenagers sort of go through and has more of a teenage perspective and a teenage mind when it comes to it. And you can definitely hear that in the album. Like, a lot of the demeanor and even some of the lyrics are very, very clearly like immature-ish. Not from a negative perspective, I'm not saying that they're immature and that's bad, but rather from the fact that, well, yeah, this is a teenager that still has a lot of growing to do, so of course that they're going to be immature. But yes, you can notice that some of that immaturity, or I guess edginess in the album, like for example, who doesn't capitalize songs in their titles, because none of them are fucking that shit just sends me. I hate when songs aren't capitalized. Like, I'm sorry, it's personal pet peeve, but or for instance, the 8th song in the album is actually called 8 because it's the 8th song in the album, and there's also a song that is actually called Wish You Were Gay, which, speaking of, I think this song is actually probably the best at showing that Billie can actually sing outside of the style that she usually does. And honestly, I'm kind of curious to see what an album like that would actually sound. As for the song itself, don't worry, this is not a Katy Perry having, or rather being out of touch with queerness and making a song that was outdated even by the time the song came out. Instead, it's just a teenage girl dealing with a rejection from a boy who didn't actually end up like liking her or something, or like she had a crush on a boy and the boy didn't like him or didn't like her, and she kind of like made this song because she was like, oh well, if you were a boy you wouldn't have hurt me. I think that's what I got from the lyrics. I don't know if that's actually what the lyrics are. I'm just gonna go with that. But yes, obviously they sound, obviously this is like a very immature thing, right? It's a very like teenage thing, clearly. This is, like wishing someone was gay so it wouldn't hurt as much when your crush rejects you. It's very teenage, right? But again, it's a pretty good song that would actually it's actually endearing to see how a teenager actually deals with these types of feelings, and the art that can actually come out of it. Also, when the party is over, I think is another song that actually shows really well how good their song actually is. Like, again, it's a pretty good song that you would usually maybe have someone that is like really good at singing and a really powerful voice in order to actually, for the song to actually sound really good, since it has a very, stripped down instrumentalization, and it exposes your voice a lot because your voice is purely the focus of the song. And the end, Billie actually does a very good job, which is again a bit surprising considering that a lot of the album is sort of like this sort of pseudo whispering style. To me, it just seems that she doesn't really need to do that whispering style because clearly she can sing really well. It's just that, again, I'm curious to know if it was more of a, considering that she was 17 when she made this album or sang on this album, because as I know, this album had the production of her brother, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm curious to know if it was more like insecurity and fear, and as a result she opted for a more like unique style that wouldn't expose her as much, or if it was just purely stylistic choice because she wanted to do something completely different than the usual singing that she did. Speaking of the song 8, however, honestly it's my least favorite of the album. Like, I did not really enjoy the gimmick too much at the start, and honestly I usually enjoy this type of instrumentalization, but here not so much. It's still a decent song and I appreciated the experimentation, but it was definitely a miss for me. Outside of Bury a Friend and maybe My Strange Addiction, the album does get progressively weaker as it goes. However, they are still very good. The album is still very strong and it's still very interesting to me, but it definitely didn't grab me as much as the first part. But at the same time, like, it's fine. Look, the opener of the album, like the way the album opened, was actually really strong, so it's kind of fine for albums to sort of slow down towards the end once they've already spoke their piece, right? So yeah, overall, really enjoyable album, very interesting. I used to hate Billie Eilish purely because popular music equals bad, obviously, and to be fair, like, goddamn, that fucking bad guy hook was literally everywhere, like everywhere, everyone was hearing it. It was literally everywhere. But actually listening to the entire album, I quite enjoyed it. The voice plus interesting but clean production actually really did it for me, and my vibe meter is telling me, honestly, like, right now I'm like a very strong 8 out of 10, but at the same time I'm like, should I give it a 9? Because, like, you know, I'm gonna go with 8 out of 10 for now, but definitely like this could easily be a 9, I think, even in my eyes. So yeah, that's pretty much for it, for this album, and I'll see you tomorrow.